guy.
And I would say that Sasha's footprint in Sacramento is starting to shrivel, and why his buyout with Toronto makes the trade even worse for Sacramento. The full details of that trade are now in view. This is from Raptors Rapture. The full details of that trade are now in view, and it looks like a slam dunk for the Raptors. They got 2 second-round picks for essentially free, as swapping Jalen McDaniels for Davion Mitchell is at worst an even swap, if not another clear win for the Raptors. After waiving Vezenkov, the Raptors now have an open roster spot and the flexibility to use nearly all of the mid-level exception and still stay under the luxury tax. Whether they use that flexibility to sign a player or trade for someone, they have plenty of options available to them. Sacramento likely still had to make the trade because of the timing, as they needed the room to pull off a sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan. Yet if they had just worked out the buyout with Vezenkov themselves, they could have kept the draft picks. Instead, the difference of a month earned Toronto some valuable draft capital. Their perspective on trades in the NBA changes all of the time as hindsight comes into focus. And right now, this deal looks like even more of a win for Toronto. Yeah, it's kind of a bad look. I mean, let me put it to you like this. What we don't know is whether or not they tried to have a conversation and work something out with Sasha. Mm-hmm. But if they said, we don't want to do that with you, and Sasha was saying, look, now that Sasha's gone, we heard that after a game, Sasha was speaking in his native tongue, and we don't know what he was saying, but he was ticked off after a game he did not play. Sasha was not happy. So is this a case, Chris, of the Kings saying, hey, we're staying strong, and ultimately having a bit of egg on their face, or maybe they were just going to get screwed either way?
Yeah, I kind of think that they just didn't think Sasha was going to be willing to leave $6 million on the table. I think their bet was, no, Sasha will play another year and then maybe he'll go back overseas or something like that. I read this article and I just got re-upset again. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, when that deal happened, I was pretty useless on this show for about a half hour because I was just so upset, confused, and I had to talk myself down a bit. And I kind of regret doing that. I feel like I kind of should have stayed, kept the pressure on, because I just, again, as it says there, it feels like the further and further we get away from this trade, less and less sense it makes. And it feels like, Jalen McDaniels hasn't had his intro press conference yet with the Kings. Devin Carter has, DeMar DeRozan has, Jordan McLaughlin sat in that seat right there. I know he hasn't had his intro press conference, but he's been in Sacramento.
Right. Is McDaniels even in Sacramento?
We don't know. We literally don't know. And so it's just really frustrating to me. And I think it is a really bad move. And I thought, I completely agree that they just gave up second-round picks for the sake of flexibility, and I get that it allowed them to make the move for DeMar, but it just didn't feel like they exhausted every option, and I think this is a bit of the downside of, and I'm not blaming the fans for it, but I do think when there's so much pressure, it feels like, to get a deal done, sometimes you do have to act out of desperation, and that was my problem with that move. Is I know there's GMs out there. Masai Ujiri's one of them. Danny Ainge is 1,000,000% one of them. It doesn't matter if you have an intention or not. You don't lose a trade.
Right.
That's how those guys operate. And Monte McNair, I kind of thought had a bit of that in him. But to just give up what they gave up in the sake of, hey, this is going to be better for us in the long haul, I just couldn't get down with, and I just didn't see the vision, and I still don't see it, and I don't think the vision's going to come because they could have still acquired DeMar, and they just would have been a little bit over the luxury tax. They only did it to save money. It was not necessarily that they couldn't do it full stop without getting under the dollar figure. They just kind of wanted to save a couple bucks, a couple $1 million at that, but I just kind of had a fundamental problem with it. And I think, the article is completely right. As the days go further and further, and, if Jalen McDaniels ends up never playing a game for the Kings just essentially ship those guys off for the sake of a little bit of freedom underneath the first apron and the luxury tax. And I can't get down for that.
Yeah. And, some of us play fantasy basketball, fantasy football, and the couch GMs, right? And things like that. But this is a situation where you start thinking, okay, and I'm very, guilty of this. I say all the time, these guys get paid the big bucks. For the most part, I trust these guys.
Yeah.
And when you see something like this and your initial thought was this makes no sense. Then it's like the 5 stages of grief.
Yes, it's what it felt like, legitimately.
Right. First, it's this makes no sense. Then it's, okay, Monty must know what he's doing. And now, all this time later, it turns out, no, sometimes these guys swing and miss. Yeah. And Sam Presti came out, hey, we missed on Gordon Hayward, right? And I think this was some version of a miss.
Yeah.
Okay. And as much as we said, hey, well, Sasha didn't fit and Davion this, you basically lost them for nothing. We do not know if Jalen McDaniels has ever stepped foot. If he saw the rabbit coming down the Sacramento airport, has he stepped? We went on his Instagram last week.
Yeah.
The brother hasn't posted since he was in Philly. We need an AP. I sound like Stephen A. We need an APB out on Jalen McDaniels. Where is this man?
You got chefs in New Orleans who love him.
idea.
He might be in New Orleans. We have no clue where this man is.
No idea.
And now Sasha comes home to a slew of just
looking like Lionel Messi, man.
Looking like he made the best decision of his life. And the Kings, this is the chess move. This is the move before the move. Okay, well, you got DeRozan, and now you hop on these here airwaves with our guy Jason Ross and says this is the core. So it felt like it was a little bit, not a dud because you got DeRozan, but we thought this was going to be some, and maybe they're not done, but there was some type of this master move, this mastermind move, and it turns out, as of right now, there wasn't.
Yeah.
There was one move, and to your point, you saved a little bit of cash.
Yep. Good job. Good job. Glad.
You saved a little bit of cash where I say
could have kept Davion. I really think
you could have kept Davion.
Yeah. And, I wasn't super excited about and I think they would have had to make a decision. But again, I think Davion.
But you would have still had him as an asset for later.
100%. That's it.
You would have still had him as an asset for later, and you lose that asset. Now, I know where Davion is because I still follow him on Instagram, and he's grinding in the 6.
In the 6.
He's grinding out there, and he looked good.
Yeah.
He looked good,
and
too.
He's going to do great. He's going to do great out there. He's going to have an open opportunity.
That's
also,
right.
real quick, there's some Kings-adjacent free agency news that just came out. Kessler Edwards, former Sacramento King, signs a 2-year deal with the Dallas Mavericks.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him.
Dallas is just, Dallas and the Sixers, if you've ever done anything good in your life on the basketball court, we are pulling you in. Also, by the way, it is official with Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has agreed to a 2-year, $6.8 million deal with the Nuggets, and I can't wait for the text line or the Sactown. Why didn't we? Would you have done that deal actually, Chris? Because you were a Russell Westbrook guy.
Yeah, I've got no problem with it. Yeah.
So it would have been him instead of the McLaughlin situation?
Yeah, I'll take that risk.
When you guys are looking at the Kings off-season rankings, which we've been doing quite a bit here, are you guys seeing Dallas? What people are rating them?
Very high.
Very high.
Like top five. Top 5.
Did they get an A?
So it's always A.
I don't think it was A.
I don't know if it was. I can't remember what they got on the off-season grade.
It might be A now.
We looked at the power rankings, I think.
Kessler Edwards put them over the top.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
A plus now.
And you have the Nuggets, who I don't think we read something, Chris, that said Jamal Murray at the 2, Russell Westbrook starting.
Right.
And if you don't have, and Russell Westbrook, pretty good defender for the most part. He's a little bit older now, but without KCP, you're running out of time, Denver. You are running out of time, and this is something that keeps them in the mix, but I wouldn't say changes that much of the landscape. Rob, we see Rob wants to talk Sasha. We will get to Rob on the other side. We also will get into some baseball with the Mariners trading for the big hitter from Tampa Bay. Stiles and Watkins, Sactown Sports.